Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this channel, I will be chronicling my journey with fibromyalgia, and right now I'm going through my fibro story. So welcome to part 2 of my fibromyalgia journey. So in part 1, we left off where I entered into high school. I was 13 years old. And if you missed part 1, I will put that link here above my head and in the description below. While I was in high school, I had a terrible accident that had really changed my life. So the way this happened was, in my first year, it was fine. Everything was fine. I didn't have any symptoms or any problems or anything like that. And I was doing great. It was like, my heart condition magically disappeared. So at the end of my first year, I went to the US to visit my family members there. And while I was there, my mom mentioned about the little issues that I was having with my chest pains on my left side. And we decided to go see a doctor, and she did more tests, more EKGs, blood tests, etc. At the end of the day, she came back to me and she was like, "Oh, I have your test results back and you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." And in that moment, I finally felt free of this mysterious heart condition. And it was like I almost wanted to cry. And she looked at me and she's like, "You look like you want to cry. What's the matter?" I couldn't tell her what was the matter, lady, I have been through this for the last 4 years of my life, seeing all these people, taking all these pills, thinking I'm gonna die in my sleep. And so all the information from the previous doctor became truth for me. Costochondritis. I moved into my second year of high school, and I kind of took that out of my mind. In high school, you have to do PE. So one day in my second year in PE class, we were playing baseball. My PE teacher was really interested in teaching us how to play baseball by the rules. So we're all like, "Oh, this is so boring." Some of us were really into the game and some of us weren't so much. And so we started bugging him to ask him to get us off the field. And finally he said, "Okay, fine, you can go." While leaving the field, I saw from the corner of my eye, one of my friends had caught the ball that somebody had just hit with a bat. And she threw the ball. In that same instant, it was like slow motion. I couldn't move out of the way fast enough, and it hit me right in the back of the head. I said, "Ow," and then I went down slowly. After that, I remember all of my friends, when I opened my eyes, were looking at me on the ground in a circle, and they were like, "Let her breathe, move out the way," They kind of dragged me off to the side, and then one of them were looking at me and just making sure that I was okay. I got up, I went to class, I got dressed in my uniform back from my PE clothes, and then school was over and I went home. I told my mother what happened, and she asked if the teacher took me to the hospital or anything, and I said no. She seemed kind of concerned, but I woke up the next day, Friday, I went to school. It was Mass, because I went to a Catholic all-girls school. We celebrate Mass. During the Mass, my head was really hurting. It was insane. And you have to sit and stand during the prayers, and I couldn't sit and stand. And one of the teachers came to me and they were like, "What's the matter? You weren't participating in the Mass." And one of my friends told her, "Oh, she got hit in the head yesterday, blah, blah, blah." We went over the whole story, and I fainted right there. Next thing I know, I'm in her car and we're on the way to the hospital that was a block and a half away. So it was I could see the hospital from my school. She put me in a wheelchair. We did all the things, x-rays and whatnot. We went to see the doctor, and he said, "There's nothing wrong with you." I guess he was looking for a skull fracture or something like that. So I asked him, "So why does my head hurt?" And he's like, "Oh, your head hurt because you just hit it yesterday. And in a few days, you'll be fine." I got a follow-up visit. I told my mom, and she went to take me to the follow-up visit. And then after that follow-up visit, they were like, "Your head is still hurting." So I got another follow-up visit. So usually you get follow-up visits until your problem is resolved, or they can't help you anymore, or you decide to get another opinion, or you leave. something of that sort. And then I started fainting. I started having fainting spells a few weeks later. We went to tell our follow-up doctor about the fainting spells, and he's like, maybe you need to see a neurologist. Off to see the neurologist, he thinks I'm having seizures and starts giving me seizure medication and starts giving me tranquilizers, diazepam. And so there I was at 14 years old taking more pills. Again, here we are, again. And it was like, okay, this is a familiar road. I know what's going on. And I decided to give the pills a shot. So I took them. I took them. And every time I took them, I felt worse. I would actually feel like I have a seizure. Like, I would space out. And I couldn't, remember things. I couldn't remember people. I couldn't remember what I was doing. And at some point, it got so bad, I couldn't read, write, speak, shower myself, remember any of my friends. I was totally incapacitated. And all this time I had this really awful headache. It was so intense. And I remember lying in the bed. Sometimes I had to stay home from school, and I thought to myself, I would never ever wish this on my worst enemy, And I had missed a lot of school, and I got really thin. I was 85 pounds, and I kept going to the neurologist, and he just kept giving me pills. He never did another test or follow my finger, type of thing. Or maybe he did do that. So that happened in the end of the second year of my high school. So moving to the third year of my high school, all these problems compounded on each other, and I could barely function. I missed so much school during the third year of my high school. I don't even know how I passed. I had a lot of fainting spells at school. I had a lot of seizures, a lot of feel bad days, and I had a perpetual, never-ending headache. So now I have a headache, chest pain. I have a pain in my right lower abdomen, and then I started to develop random body aches and pains. So I would have floating pain all over my body, and you couldn't touch me too hard or push me too hard, or I would feel really uncomfortable. And I wasn't, so physically inclined. I got really tired a lot. You could talk to me for a few minutes and I would be laughing and talking, and then in the next second I would be fast asleep. I was sleeping all the time, and I was so hard to wake up. But I just thought it was a symptom of, this getting hit in the head with a baseball. So moving to my fourth year, I had the summer between the third and fourth year. And during that summer, I threw away all of the pills. I did not take a single one. I was over it. Since I lived in the village, I went around, I got a lot of sunshine, I ate a lot of mangoes and a lot of my grandparents' home cooking, and I started looking and feeling better. I entered school in my fourth year, and everybody was like, wow, you look so different, you're gaining weight, you look healthy. And then school picked up momentum, and we had all the fourth year, final year stresses, and the headaches came back, and the seizures came back at the neurologist again. And he loaded me up with more pills. And during this time, along with all the stresses from the final year of high school, CXC exams, SBAs, and practical exams, my parents started having trouble, and they were in the process of separating. And this was so much stress on all the kids and me and everything, and it just became gigantic, and I couldn't deal with it. And I think my body just manifested all the things that I was feeling through physical symptoms. So finally I ended up graduating high school. Thank the Lord. Seems the teachers were compassionate. They knew what I was trying to say, but for chemistry and math, it's right or wrong, Then I entered into college. Now I graduated at 16. I turned 17 over the summer, and I enter into college. During the summer, after I graduated from high school, I threw away my pills again because I decided this is completely ridiculous. I know that these pills are what causing me to feel bad, because I would observe how my body feels. I would take one, and then I would observe how my body feels again. And then I said, this is the culprit. That goes in the toilet. What else? I take something else. Okay, this is the culprit. You go in the toilet. And I did that with like the 5 or 6, maybe even 8 different prescriptions that I was on. And then I told my parents a lie. I told them I was taking them, and I told them that it made me better. When we went back to the neurologist, I told him that I felt great and I don't want to take another round. And he's like, see, she grew out of it. But really, I wasn't taking the medication. I still noticed that I had like a really like nagging headache, but it wasn't so intense as it was in my 3rd and 4th year of high school. So I started college, yay! And I was with my friends and everything was great. And you know, I was going around and having fun, and I still lived at home with my parents because it was close by. And we were all still so innocent because we were just 16 out of high school. A lot of my friends were 16 in college, and some of us were 17, so we were still pretty young. And we were just having like innocent fun, you know, like going around the city, having whatever we want to eat for lunch, and not wearing school uniforms anymore. So it was great. I never had any of these symptoms. And then my parents separated physically from each other, and we went to live in a different place. It became hard for me to go to school from a financial point of view because of the separation. So I became worried about how I would finish my education, because for me that was like the most important thing. That was what I wanted for my life. I wanted to go te la book, which means until there's no more school to do. I want to go to school until there's no more school to do. I really love school too, because in my primary school, which is elementary school, I did really well. In my 1st and 2nd year of high school, before I got sick, I did really well. And so school was just my thing. It was how I expressed myself. It was my passion. And I love learning. So I was like, oh man, I need to figure out how I can do this. And my mom's family member, her sister, reached out to us and said, you know, if she comes to the US, I can help her go to school. And I took the opportunity to do that. And I was like, yes, I can go to school. That was just my main point. That's just what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything fancy. I didn't want to road to the green card. I didn't want to become a citizen. I didn't want to get on any fancy programs or whatever. I just wanted to go to school. And so I packed up a tiny suitcase that was nothing but a carry-on. I had maybe like 4 or 5 shirts and some underwear and just the shoes on my feet. And I got on an airplane and I went to the United States. And during this time, I had my formative years. And I'm going to stop the story here for now. And I know. And I will continue what happened to me in the United States in part 3 of my fibromyalgia journey, and how I learned how to take care of my body and how I could manage my symptoms while living on my own. So thank you for listening to part 2 of my fibro story. If you're interested in listening to part 3, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any new videos. If you like this story, please give a thumbs up. And if you want to share your story with me, please go ahead and leave me a comment below. Thank you so much for stopping by. And until then, live your best life.